One Piece 3D 2Y. This is a TV show special that I finally got my hands on. I've been eager to watch it, and I finally got the chance to watch it. And you know what? I was super impressed. Now in today's episode, when we break down, I'm gonna break into it. But before I hop into that, I'll let you guys know I do have a Patreon/Zakka that you can subscribe to for $2 a month, and you get to jump in front of everybody when it comes to your review requests. If you have a request, you can put in the YouTube comments below, and I'll get to it whenever I can. But if you want to jump on that Patreon, I get to it as soon as possible because you're paying my services. So I'll get your review out there before it comes on Facebook and YouTube. You pay to my Patreon. Now, let's go ahead and get into today's episode of One Piece 3D 2Y. And this came out in 2014. And what is it about? It's about Luffy training between the time skip. So you're caught up on One Piece, or you have got to the One Piece scene at the Sabaody arc, the Sabaody archipelago arc, where the Straw Hat crew gets separated. And Luffy tells his crew, instead of 3 days, we're gonna take 2 years to train, and then we meet back up at Sabaody archipelago. And that's what happens to Luffy training. Is just when he's training with Riley, there's a moment where a guy who gets released from the events of Imperial Down gets released back to the world named Birdie World, and he is trying to take his revenge out on the military, the Navy, or the Marines, depending on which version of One Piece you watch. And the world government and the military is like, no, we need to attack him. So they summon the 7 warlords of the sea to go attack Birdie World. And Birdie World decided to take the fight to them first by kidnapping Boa Hancock's sisters. And this gets Luffy wrapped into it because Luffy want to protect Boa and her sisters to take down this guy to get his friends back. And that is the gist of One Piece 3D 2Y. And the things that I like, the animation. The animation is amazing. It is some good work. Like, the detailing, the artwork on this in this TV special is really, really good. Like, it's super good. Also, what I didn't expect, that this was an hour and 48 minutes long, and I started to notice it, but it didn't bother me. I was just like, oh, when we get into the climax, we haven't got to the climax yet. We haven't got to the climax. We haven't got to the climax. What's going on here? But it didn't fact, like, it wasn't like I wanted to nag to it. It was just, I wasn't expecting it to be an hour and 48 minutes. Maybe I was expecting a 45-minute TV special, but no, it was a whole movie. This is a movie, pretty much. This is a movie. I love the story. I love the story of Luffy trying to still get over his loss of his brother. Like, the beginning of this movie shows the events of Marineford. It shows this, like, clips of Luffy getting to the gallows and saving Ace, and it shows Ace free. In that moment, you're always like, so much joy, the whole Ace gone, like that scene, like all of that, or just that he watched the dub version, he's just Ace, like that whole scene. There was moments where Ace is like grabbing Luffy and excited, and then it cuts, it cuts to the punch with Akainu punching Ace in the chest, and Ace couldn't, protect Luffy, and then Luffy, goes into shock. Luffy relives that scene in his mind, and he's trying to work to learn Haki, who Riley explains to him what Haki is, and there's 3 different, Armament Haki, Conqueror's Haki, and then there's Observation Haki. He learns all those abilities and what they actually mean. He's seen them throughout the show, and he's actually used, I know he used the Conqueror's Haki. He might use Observation Haki. I don't think Luffy used Observation. No, he hadn't used Observation Haki at this point. So you use only Conqueror's Haki, which you can knock out somebody just based off your presence. But in your intimidation alone, you can just knock them out. So Luffy learns that and learn what all of it means, the details behind it. He's training, trying to, get stronger. And when Boa Hancock wants to send him some food, and her sister goes, and Birdie World learns what happened with the Navy and what they're trying to do to him, he kidnaps them. Luffy, with his friends getting captured and then not being strong enough, because that's one thing he wanted to do. He wanted to get strong enough to defeat anybody who stands up to him to protect his friends. And Birdie World kicks his butt the first time, and Luffy realizes he's not strong enough, but he's not gonna give up. He's still gonna keep fighting because his friends keep him going. And this the struggle of losing his brother and the grief behind that, and then losing his friends, but his friends are still alive, so he needs to work harder so they can all be together again. That fight that Luffy has, the struggle to almost give up, to struggle to not being hardened by what has happened, but also still believe that his, still the belief in his friends that he gotta get stronger. Like, all that is holding Luffy in this movie, and that's driving his motivation in this movie, which I love it. And then flip side to Birdie Worlds, Bernardy, who by the way named Bernardy Worlds, Burn the Worlds, get it? Has experienced the same thing Luffy has. He has an older brother who is sick and weakly, that Bernardy decides to get stronger to take his brother along with him. They want to go search for freedom. That is their whole goal. Well, when things get a little out of hand, the Navy decides to take down Bernardy. They use CP9 to betray his crew against him. So Bernardy's are like, my crew betrayed me, but my brother, my doctor, my first mate, my ship's mechanic, they all betrayed me. They all left and ran. Well, I got put in jail for it was over, I think 100, it wasn't 100 years, 50 years, 30 years he was locked up. But he been locked away for quite some time, frozen, and he comes back, and there's a scene in this movie that really stood out to me. He told his brother, he's like, for you, time passed by. You got older, y'all got older. You was able to, put away your guilt of leaving behind and forgive me and forgive yourselves. For me, that event happened just like yesterday. I was frozen for all those years. The moment I got freed, that event felt like yesterday. And it's only been like a few days or a few weeks since the events of Marineford and Imperial Down. So he's still like, that happened like a month ago. Like, a month ago for me. This is fresh. But he holds that grudge that if Luffy would have had that same mentality of, screw you guys. Y'all wasn't strong enough. Y'all left me behind. We didn't stay to the end. We didn't fight to the end. We gave up. You guys died. Like, for Luffy, he told Luffy, you were weak enough, you was not strong enough to save your brother. Your brother died at your hands because you wasn't strong enough. He's like, my friends and brother wasn't strong enough to fight for me and let me get taken away. Like, he pretty much did what Ace would have done. I'm not sure Ace would have done it, but Ace could have done it. Luffy never went to go save Ace, and Ace just died and came back and haunted Luffy. Like, he probably would have been the same way. But just the mindset, like, they both had the same reason. They both have an older brother. They both have crewmates. One felt abandoned by his crewmates because crewmates didn't stay to fight. The other one is trying to go back and save his crewmates and bring his crewmates back and upset that he wasn't strong enough to save his family, his friends, which is pretty much his family. While the other one was like, his friends and family wasn't strong enough to save him. And it's there's two ideologies here that come across each other. One who won't give up, and the other one who kind of gave up and just still going through struggles. It's pretty dang good. Like, it's some good writing. And this wasn't written by Oda. This is not considered canon because it wasn't written by Oda. His character was used in this. It's still pretty dang good. It still pretty much holds the world of One Piece. I can watch this in between the Shaba Odi arc and the New World arc and be perfectly fine after. Maybe probably watch it after the flashback, after Luffy's flashback with Ace and Sabo. Watch it after that. If you're going to try to figure out where to put it in with the series, that'd be a good time to watch it. Now, a negative I have for this would be the 3D animation. They're trying to work it in this movie, and some of the 3D animation when like Buggy the Clown gets turned into a cinder block and he's bouncing around, that looks kind of, goofy, look kind of weird. But other than that, that buggy scene reminded me of Family Guy. It reminded me something out of Family Guy. I don't know why. It's the way the animation looked, the way the 3D animation looked with the 2D inside of it. The 3D cube with the 2D drawing inside of it just looked like a really interesting Family Guy scene. And I don't know why it looked like that. But for the most part, the 3D animation wasn't that bad. It just stood out at certain points. But other than that, it was cool. And that's about it. Like, the music was fine. The characters showing up, I love to seeing the whole, I guess, remaining 7 warlords of the sea. Cause Mihawk shows up, which I love me some Mihawk. I was like, let's go, we're gonna get Mihawk. Yeah, let's do this. And he does a little something at the end, but that's about it. Boa Hancock, seeing Boa Hancock was cool. But you know what? I'll say the characters for their own moments. But other than that, anything else? No, that would be it. That would be it. I really enjoyed this. I truly enjoyed this movie. Okay, let's talk about budget and everything and when it came out. And the directors of this one. So this doesn't have a budget because the TV special is a budget that's not even put on here. But no, One Piece 3D 2Y came out in 2014. It was directed by Naoyuki Ito. And the writers of this was Hirohiko Uesaka and Jin Takanaka are the writers of this one for this movie. Oda gets credit for the manga. The characters, you have, let's gotta break it down, Monkey D. Luffy, who I actually like. Is not just the most part so far with One Piece, especially you guys been following my channel. I've talked about Luffy being mostly the same character. He's mostly been the guy who's like, I'm going to fight for my friends. He hasn't come to a struggle that he hasn't lost yet. I know I'm cutting hundreds of chapters, hundreds of episodes ahead right now for this TV show special that I really wanted to watch. But I'm caught up in the manga and in the anime. I just rewatching One Piece for the fun of it, which that is quite the task. But so far, you've been watching my reviews with me. From season 1 to season 6, where I'm at on my channel, Luffy hasn't really had a struggle. He has struggled, yes, against Crocodile. He has struggled against, you could say, Don Krieg. But he hasn't really been down where he can't come back and win yet. He hasn't been pushed down to dirt where he feels like his soul is breaking and been broken. He hasn't been there yet. In this movie, he is there. He's in a healing process. He just lost his brother who he watched get murdered right in front of him, and he couldn't save him after doing so much to save him. A fist within a second took his life out. Luffy has to live with that. And prior to that, he had to live with losing his friend Sakuma, who just blimped him out of existence for a quick second. And Luffy couldn't do anything to stop that as he watched his crew go from each person to Nico Robin, who's kind of cool how Nico Robin was the last person that he tried to save before she got bloop away, which is probably one of my favorite anime scenes of all time because so much energy and effort was put into that. And it's the first match you watch Luffy break. Like, I came to tears almost watching that episode because I was like, I saw it live. I saw it when it came out and I was like, it's so much. It's so, oh my gosh. So Luffy's going through all that. He's trying to get stronger so he can be able to be with his friends and protect them again. So he's working on getting stronger. He's trying to like, I wasn't strong enough to save them. I don't want that to happen to anybody else again. He's like, I don't want to experience that. So Luffy is working his hardest to get stronger in this movie. In Birdie Worlds, he knows that he can beat Birdie because Birdie ideology is not the same as Luffy. Birdie is just, giving up on he doesn't have anything else to drive him, but Luffy constantly has his friends to drive him. As long as his friends are around, he still has something to live for. And he's not going to lose this fight because he made a promise to be with them at the end of this all. So Luffy went from being somebody who protect his friends and always want to stay there and fight, stand up for his friends. He's still that guy, but he's also had to learn how to deal with loss and grief in this. And that dynamic has changed in a sense where he's not just being running in first reckless. He's like, okay, I'm been training, I gotten stronger. Also, to kidnap my friends, I can't just sit by though. I have to do something. And with the help of his other friends, he still got a chance to win. He's like, I'm not losing this fight. I have too much on the line. Then there is Boa Hancock. Boa Hancock is, I don't know. Nico Robin's my favorite. Boa, I can't put her on the favorite list because her mentality is horrible. She's not a nice person. Boa Hancock is a very horrible person to everybody else but Luffy. She treats everybody else like trash except for Luffy. And because Luffy is the first guy who never really looked at Boa Hancock in a sexual or attractive manner. So Boa Hancock is considered one of the most beautiful women in all of One Piece. She's actually considered the beautiful woman in all of One Piece. And everybody falls for her immediately. No matter what gender you are, you break. No matter what kind of, like, if you're non-human or human, you will eventually, like, oh my gosh, Boa. And she used her, I think, heart fruit, where she can change people into stones. Or stone fruit. I don't know what her fruit is. But she can change people into stones, which it doesn't work on Luffy because Luffy has no attraction to her whatsoever. He just doesn't find her, like, attractive. But he finds her as a friend. He just like, I don't see any attraction here. And Boa Hancock, because I got enamored with Luffy and just loves Luffy to death. So I like her play it with Luffy and her trying to like always get Luffy to hug or hold her or trying to person in this relationship with Luffy where Luffy's just like, thanks Boa, you're the best. And she's like, oh my gosh, it means we're married. That means we're like, there's a scene where another girl showed up and who knows Luffy, and Luffy's like, I think I remember you, but I don't remember you. Like, he doesn't remember people who are not as prominent in his life or made an impact on his life, and they showed up and he's like, oh, you're there. But then, like, let's say Usopp fights her, like Peoria, who I'm talking about, Usopp fights her. Luffy doesn't like, I didn't really have a fight with you, so So he keeps moving and Boa Hancock's like, oh my gosh, Luffy's cheating with me with her. And Luffy says something later where he's like, I remember her, but I don't remember her. She's like, maybe he's not. Anyway, Boa Hancock and Luffy teaming up together and fighting together is such an awesome image to see that you don't get to see in like the anime. And I love it seeing it here in this movie. Like, they fought a fishman guy who was blind so he couldn't fall for Boa Hancock. Thought was great. Boa Hancock does have a fan service part in this movie, and I'm just like, we didn't need this for Boa. She's already fan service enough, but it is what it is. She fights a woman who pretty much tears her clothes up, so just more skin reveal, but Boa Hancock's handle her pretty evenly. But Boa Hancock was a cool addition to see, and just one reason why I want to watch this because I wanted to watch this because I wanted to see the dynamic between Boa and Luffy in this movie, how they play off each other, and it was great. I loved it. Riley, he is being the mentor for Luffy in this movie. Cool dude, just kind of taught Luffy some things. Who else was a main piece in this? Well, that's the three main characters. Then you get into, yeah, those are the main characters. Then we'll get into Birdie Worlds, who is the villain. I thought he was a good villain. I thought he was actually done well. At first, he starts off like, oh, okay, we got another bad guy who's like, I'm here to rule the world kind of thing. And then you learn that, like, no, his goal is to take down the Navy. So I was like, oh, his goal to take down the Navy, what's the problem? Like, why is this the issue? He wants freedom. Well, his older brother said they wanted freedom. That was the main goal at first. And then it sadly turned from us having freedom and going off our own adventures to becoming, I don't want just freedom. I want to destroy those that hurt me and I want my vengeance back, which he wants vengeance back on the Navy. So I'm like, oh, this is not bad at all. This is a good idea. However, the way he's going about it is all horrible because he's going to take down the 7 warlords of the sea, who the Navy summoned against him. So it makes sense. He will take down the 7 warlords of the sea, but he's going to take the fight to them first. But by taking the fight to them first, he kind of gets entangled with Luffy and Boa Hancock because the first one that's closest to him is Boa Hancock. And so he kidnaps Boa Hancock's sisters, so Boa and Luffy teaming up to take down Burgundy Worlds, who goes to take down the Navy. It just pretty much turned to a cycle because the way he went about it versus going straight to Navy headquarters. And he has a giant cannon built on his ship, which is actually an underwater ship, with the design for his ship is pretty dang cool. Love it. But this giant cannon he's going to use on the Navy. And the Navy shows up like Aki Inu and Kizaru shows up to pretty much about to blow up the ship. I think Kizaru never gets there, just Aki Inu himself. So he shows up to blow the ship up. But he initially wanted to have freedom, but because what happened with his brother and his crew leaving him, and he got frozen all those years, and he wanted revenge back on the Navy, and he didn't care who got in his way for that revenge, he lost sight of his actual goal. And I love how they gave him an actual story versus just being ha ha ha, evil bad guy here to rule the world. They actually made him somebody where you're like, no, man, I see where you're coming from. You're just going about it the wrong way. Like, there's other people who want to take down the Navy too. The way you're doing it is just wrong. Like, there's other ways to go about this. Like, I wouldn't attack the 7 warlords of the sea, but I guess the 7 warlords of the sea got called to attack him. So, I don't know. If he would have waited until the 7 warlords of the sea came to him first, maybe you look at him differently. But what he did, I was like, no, all right, it doesn't work that way. Doesn't work that way. But his backstory of him taking care of his sick brother, and then they're going on adventures, and they fighting each other, or not fighting each other, but fighting all the bad guys in the world, and fighting other pirates, and then the Navy gets involved, and then you get a bounty, and a bigger bounty, and the Navy takes him down. Like, that backstory is like, this works for me. This is a good villain, and it sucks that he's not in a canon series. He's put aside in a non-canon, but dude, I'd love to see a Burgundy World character. I'd love to see what happens with him in the future and see, if maybe Oda likes the character, put him into the actual storyline, because I thought he was a good character. I love the villain in this movie. This was a great villain to me. It wasn't just purely, vengeance. He had guilt. He felt like his brother betrayed him. He felt like his friends betrayed him. He felt hurt. Like, it was some good writing. It's good writing. This is a good villain. It's a good villain. I wanted more. I loved it. Buggy the Clown is back. He's back as one of the 7 warlords of the sea, which happens in the manga. He gets promoted. And still the same shenanigans he did on Marineford, where he was like, let's pretend to do this, and people's like, oh my god, Buggy, you're so great. He helps Luffy out. He gets in the fight. He actually takes part of the fight over for Luffy, so Luffy can go fight World. And then Boa Hancock comes in and knocks the guy out, and Buggy gets the credit. Hawkeye Mihawk is in here, which I love. Hawkeye Mihawk, we still get the full extent what he can do. Apparently a giant cannonball doesn't do jack squat. He cut it in half with one easy swipe. So I'm curious to see what Hawkeye Mihawk's really gonna do. Aki Inu's in this, but he doesn't really do much. Just does his magnifier rain thing, and that's it. But that's pretty much it as far as the characters go. It's a really small cast. Really small cast. Yeah. Any other thoughts? Nah, not really. Is this a movie you should watch? Yes. If you're a One Piece fan, definitely watch this movie. It's a good one. I enjoyed it. I love this one. I thought it was great. Great time. I'm going to grade One Piece 3D 2Y. I'm going to give this movie an A-. It gets an A- for me. It's really good. Like, the only thing I didn't like was the 3D animation. Other than that, it's some great animation as far as like 2D drawing, the color, all of it. Story solid. I love this. I love this. And the motivation behind the villain, the motivation for the good guys, amazing. Amazing. If you've seen One Piece 3D 2Y, what did you think? Please put in the comment section below. But before I let you go, IMDb gives this movie a 7.6 out of 10 which is a C plus. And Voodoo gives it a 4.7 out of 5, which is a pretty much an A. I'll put a 4.7 out of 5 as a 5 rating, and 4.7 that's an A. It's really good. I really did enjoy this. I don't know, Rotten Tomatoes has this. Yes, it does. And Rotten Tomatoes grades this. It doesn't have a grade. There's 0 reviews and 0 audience ratings. So nobody reviewed this on Rotten Tomatoes. I think it's great. So I'm just one of the few people out there that actually reviewed it. I think it's solid. Yeah. If you've seen, going back to wrapping around, if you've seen it though, what did you think? Please put in the comment section below on that. See you guys next episode, movie breakdowns, and keep being awesome. Thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. I really appreciate that. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. If there's a review you want me to watch or do, let me know. Please put it in the comment section below this video. Also, you want to watch the last episode movie breakdowns, it's right there. Just gotta click on it and you'll be able to watch it. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. Love y'all, and keep being awesome.